Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but we want to give a shout out to our podcast partners, the Florida Coaches Coalition, We Coach, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports, and Vital Signs Wall of Fame. You need to add these four organizations to your network. You'd be amazed at all the things that they can provide for you, your coaches, and your program. And now, don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for about 3 minutes. Listen to our podcast sponsorship messages. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor scoring tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com right now and schedule a live web demo and see their tables and their boards in action. Their products not only generate income for your athletic department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. One of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive Indoor Score Table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Get started today. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, and it was just fantastic. But when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches all loved Huddle. Volleyball, basketball, soccer, you name it. Huddle gave us the tools that our teams, our coaches, our athletes needed to play at the next level. At Huddle, we believe in sports, and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. The kids today are on social media, and if you're not creating announcements for games, for athletes, for teams, you're really missing out. And the folks at Gipper can help you do it. Use our podcast code ADPOD10. You'll get 10% off. That's Gipper.com. Check them out today. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile, the parent company of an entire suite of platforms designed to help you as an athletic director do your job better. Go to snapraise.com. That's snapraise.com. Check them all out, but especially check out SnapRaise, their fundraising platform. We used it. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it, and it works. They'll help schools just like yours raise over $700 million. They even have a program where you can get your funding before you actually start your fundraiser. So go to snapraise.com. Get started today. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. If you're not selling your tickets online, you need to go to Hometown Ticketing and get started. They're going to set it up for you. They'll show you how to sell online tickets for all your games, for all your events, graduation, school dances, you name it. And the best part, every step of the way, you'll have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com and get started. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. The Wall of Fame is actually a touchscreen interactive video console that's going to highlight your school's academic, athletic, and artistic achievements, both past and present. But it also allows you to tell compelling stories to engage your audience and your stakeholders. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their great products, and when you're ready to buy, go to the link, vitalsignswalloffame.com/Jake, and you get 10% off. That's Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Check them out today. We also want to thank a brand new sponsor, District 1. Go to district1.com for a better uniform experience. That's district followed by WON. And you're going to feel like you won because District 1 offers you fully custom premium uniforms. It's on-time delivery, just 20 business days. And here's the deal. You can order one at a time replacements. You don't have to order an entire set just because you want to replace one or two. Stop dealing with late deliveries. Go to district1.com. That's district with WON on the back end. Click the Team Gear button for your free quote. District1.com. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey for your school that will allow you to take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. Athletic directors usually only hear back from that 2% that want to complain. And we need to hear from them, but you also need to hear from the 98% that love and support your program. And that's where Athletic Surveys comes in. Once again, go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're staying right here in Florida today, and we're going to be visiting with Kelly Marcinek. Kelly's a former D1 athlete. She's currently the Chief Operating Officer for the Florida Coaches Coalition. We're going to hear about that as we get into the podcast. But Kelly, welcome, and thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Well, we connected when we did an interview with another member of the Florida Coaches Coalition, but that's enough about him. So we're excited to hear your background and your take, and obviously share with our listeners, what the Florida Coaches Coalition is, what it's doing, and why it's important. But let's go and jump right in. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up, high school, maybe take us up through your college days, and then we'll take a break and come back and hear about your early career. But what's the Kelly Marcinek origin story?
So I am originally from a small town right outside of Chicago. It's called Crete, Illinois. I was like the only one out of my family. We lived far away from everyone. So we had to drive everywhere we went for all sports. So I actually, high school wise, I started at one high school that was closer to my house. And then kind of after my father passed away, which is funny, today's actually the anniversary. So that we're doing this today. This is, it's a good day. But so after my first high school, my sophomore year, I transferred to another one in the actual city of Chicago. And that was kind of better overall for my academics. I will say if it wasn't for that school, I would not have been a Division I athlete. So that was a big deal for me. And I'm very thankful for those coaches and teachers and all that. And so then they helped me get recruited. I went to Kennesaw State down in Atlanta, or just north of Atlanta in Kennesaw, Georgia. And that, I can't tell you enough. I love that school more than anything. I owe a lot to those coaches and the players. Obviously, college is tough, but they made it fun. And that coach became more of like a father to me, and everybody, the whole staff was like my family. So I do miss it. I miss that aspect of it, but I don't miss all that goes with it for sure. But here we are.
Yeah. Appreciate you sharing all that. Want to go back to your high school days. We hear a lot, and again, I'm not, trying to fish for a particular answer. I'm curious as to how your experience was. We hear a lot about, Division I athletes, particularly with volleyball, and how they sort of downplay their high school experience and talk more about their club experience. How was that for you?
So I played for one of, if not the top clubs in Chicago, First Alliance. So my sophomore year of high school, I went to them. Me and a couple friends, we switched clubs and we went over to them, and we actually won the national championship that year. So it was a great switch. That's for sure. Definitely club is for volleyball. That's the biggest thing. That's where you're going to get found and get recruited and everything. And then, so we won my 16th year and my 18th year. We won the championships. So It was a big deal. That helped.
Now, did you also play for your high school team?
I did.
And how were you able to transfer some of that success to that group? Because obviously, club is a collection of very elite players, and not every high school has that. So how was your high school experience?
So my first high school they were not good. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I'm a very competitive person, and it was really tough to kind of be somewhere where there was no elite level really there. So transferring to my second school, that was huge. I mean, they were one of the top schools in the city. So we had a major rivalries. So that was a lot of fun too. It was fun to have, that whole high school experience and having all your friends there to watch you play, and just the whole city and cousins and family and all that.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk now about your college experience. When you came in, and I want you to tell your story, but how was that? Were you a starter from the very beginning? Did you have to work and grind to find that position? What do you remember about your college days?
Yeah, so I think to finalize, speaking of high school, I actually didn't, as a young kid, I didn't realize how important grades really were. And until I transferred into that second high school, that's when they really started putting the pressure on me. Like, you're not going to be able to get into these schools. And when I was trying to get recruited and they were telling me that my grades weren't good enough, it was a huge disappointment as a kid when you make this list of schools, your dream schools, and you can't go to them. Well, when I found Kennesaw State, I had a recruiting director that knew the coach there, and he was about to get the job for Kennesaw. And my recruiting director said, I have a girl for you when you get the job. And so I knew I had to get my grades up. Well, that coach actually stuck his neck out for me, even with the school board. So usually when every kid, is kind of letting second semester of senior year of high school, doesn't matter. To me, it mattered more than anything. I had to get the best grades I've ever gotten in my life. So that coach from the jump just showed me like how invested he was in me. So that in turn, and the opportunity he was giving me, I wanted to obviously be more invested in him as well. So yeah, from the beginning, the coach really said, please just believe in me, because the level of the team wasn't exactly there. They were very good players, don't get me wrong. It was Division I college, but there was a lot of growth that needed to happen. So I kind of was along for the journey, and he put a lot of trust in me to kind of like help the team and bring that level of intensity. And then throughout my 4 years, their program has elevated to significant heights. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's one thing I would always talk with our student athletes when I was an athletic director about, what type of program do you want to go to? Do you want to go to a program that's, been, conference champions and at the national level for 10 years? Or, do you want to be part of something that builds a program and create your own history and your own name there? Very, very cool. Yeah, that had to be a great experience. What's one thing that I know you mentioned the coaches, and I'm sure you're going to talk about them when we get to mentors, but what's one thing that really sticks out for you, a game moment from your time at Kennesaw?
I think so. Not many people know this, but I actually played my entire freshman year with a torn labrum and rotator cuff. And there was many talks kind of in the beginning of the season of having surgery or not. And I was just kind of like, nah, it's okay. So I actually rarely practiced. And of course, the seniors didn't like that a freshman wasn't practicing, but was playing in the games. But actually finishing that freshman year, and I won freshman of the year for the Atlantic Sun Conference, was kind of for me, it was like I, kind of persevered through all that pain. And yeah, that was kind of my biggest moment for me.
Good for you. And again, we all get that. Our listeners, I'm sure, student athletes not practicing, but yet you're showing up to the game. At the same time, I'm going to bet you had a pretty good game, and they were grateful you were out there on the floor too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah.
For our listeners, our guest today is Kelly Marcinek. She is the Chief Operating Officer for the Florida Coaches Coalition. We're going to hear more about that later in the show, but let's go and take our first break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule a live web demo, and see their tables and their boards in action. They not only generate income for your department, they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. One of the best purchases I ever made was my Sideline Interactive indoor score table. It's just great. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Get started today. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a head football coach, I used Huddle for years, and it was just fantastic. But when I became an athletic director, our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, basketball, volleyball, soccer, you name it, just love the tools that Huddle provided our school, our teams, and our student athletes to play at their highest level. Go to huddle.com and see why we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Kelly Marcinek. She's with the Florida Coaches Coalition. Kelly, you shared with us, that college experience at Kennesaw, playing volleyball, D1, all sorts of exciting stories, I'm sure. Now college is over. At that point, what were some of your goals? What did you want to do? And, what has been your journey since then that's brought you now to the Florida Coaches Coalition?
Yeah. So I was one of the lucky ones that did receive a full scholarship for college. So I was very thankful for that. But kind of when, that time was dwindling down, it was like, okay, it's time for the real world. So about my senior year, last semester, obviously the season was over already. So I was kind of like, okay, it's up to you now. You got to make the money. So I kind of started from the bottom, and I started in the restaurant industry. Started working with some friends and kind of worked my way up through there. I loved it. I learned a lot of life skills that I think everybody should have to work in that hospitality industry at some point.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a lot of different roles kind of with them. I did events. I did all kinds of, I was a bartender. I did it all. And then, a few odd end jobs here and there. And then during COVID, it actually got me to move down to Florida. That was kind of my dream. And I was just like, let's do it. I had just applied for a job before everything had happened. Kind of what it did, they were like, we don't know when you can start, but we want to hire you. Well, during all that time, I saw that they had an office down here in Tampa. So I said, hey, would you care if I started there instead? And they were like, no. And as soon as they said no, I was like, okay, I guess I got to go. Like, I just asked for this. Now I got to go. Well, I moved down here and I showed up for work and found out that I was actually going to be a door-to-door salesman. Not realizing that's what I signed up for. I thought it was some kind of marketing position. Needless to say, it was door-to-door marketing. Honestly, another job that I recommend people have their kids do at some point, because you can't be scared. You have to go knock on the door. If you want to make it, you got to figure it out. You have to have the confidence, and it makes you learn all these different personalities. So as much as I hated it, I will say that I actually did love it too, because it got me to work outside and just hear a lot of different stories from a lot of different people. So then after that, I kind of realized that wasn't necessarily for me. I did a few sales roles here and there. And then last year, I stumbled upon this job opening. And I really loved, after talking with Andrew, the guy that started this, he really intrigued me. And I realized how much I owe to the coaches that have helped me throughout my lifetime. So here we are.
Yeah. The stories that you just shared are not that uncommon, I think, in many professions. Obviously, we talk to a lot of athletic directors, and our aspiring athletic directors. They ask the question, well, how do you become an AD? Well, you just don't fall into that, big school or even small school AD position without doing some of those other jobs, including, jobs like you mentioned, whether it's, food service or restaurant or sales, et cetera. But you touched on a great point. The experiences, both practical and relational, people skills that you develop in those jobs, you have to, or you're not going to survive, certainly pay big dividends down the road. Okay. Let's go and give a little bit of a tease. You're currently, and again, we talked about it, you just got a promotion with Florida Coaches Coalition. What is the Florida Coaches Coalition? Just kind of broad brushstrokes, and then we'll take a deeper dive later on.
So the Florida Coaches Coalition to me is, I didn't realize how underpaid the coaches here in Florida actually are. It's actually baffling to me. So kind of coming in and realizing like they advocate for coaches to receive higher pay. So behind the scenes, Andrew's doing everything he can and talking to who he needs to talk to, and kind of bringing on, awareness of what's really going on. So the Florida Coaches Coalition, though, we do offer anything from mental health. Like, we're an advocate for mental health, and we try to provide that for coaches. We offer clinics and all kinds of like furthering their development as coaches as well.
Yeah, and we're going to take, like I said, more of a deeper dive into that when we come back. For our listeners, our guest today is Kelly Marcinek. She's currently the Chief Operating Officer for the Florida Coaches Coalition. We're going to take another break. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Gipper for their support of the podcast. Go to Gipper.com, see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school social media channels. The kids today are on social media, and as an athletic director, you need to be meeting them where they're at. Gipper is going to help you create some great graphic messages that highlight your teams, your student athletes, your coaches, even you as an athletic director. Go to Gipper.com, mention our podcast, use our code ADPOD10, and you'll get 10% off. That's Gipper.com. Check them out today. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile. Snap Mobile is the parent company for an entire suite of platforms designed to help you do your job better. You've got Snap Store, Snap Sponsor, Snap Connect, Snap Manage, and of course, there's Snap Raise. You can find all of these at snapraise.com. We use their fundraising platform at my school with great success, and so can you. They've helped schools just like yours raise over $700 million. They even have a program where they're going to give you your funding before you actually start your fundraiser. I don't think anybody else offers that. Go to snapraise.com and check them out today. That's snapraise.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Kelly, one of my favorite segments is when we ask our guests to share some of the mentors that they've had in their life. None of us get to where we're at on our own. You're certainly at the beginning of your journey, but I'm going to guess there's some people that have helped you along the way. Who are some of the people you'd like to give a shout out to?
Definitely my mother, of course. I think I lack in the area of thanking her for being the biggest mentor throughout my life. And then overall, it would be honestly a lot of my coaches. Like, it's honestly, there's too many of them to even name. But again, the biggest one I would say would be Coach Sunzel from Kennesaw State. I mean, we had a lot of similar things that have happened in our life that even connected us more. So he wasn't just a coach, like I said earlier, he was more like a father figure in my life. But I mean, throughout the years, so many different coaches that kind of took on that role after, again, I was 12 when my father passed. So a lot of these coaches kind of stepped in as, bigger brothers or, aunts, uncles, all that, just kind of another parent figure for me throughout my life that there's genuinely just too many to name.
Yeah, the coaches I can remember like it's yesterday, junior high coach that kind of kicked me in the butt at, helped straighten me out, being a squirrely middle school kid. And then, your high school coaches, the college coaches, they're still there. Okay. And as you continue to grow in this profession, you're going to find more mentors, and you are going to in turn start mentoring that next generation. Okay? Let's go and just take that jump and go right into the Florida Coaches Coalition. Talk about some of the things that you have done for the organization, some of the things that you're doing right now. I know you have some big events coming up. Let's save that for the next segment. But again, for somebody who's brand new and doesn't know what it is, how did it develop? And again, what are some of the things that you're doing right now with the organization?
So it started in December of 21. Andrew, he started it. He started this whole thing with kind of just a little idea. And then throughout the year, he put on a coaches clinic and kind of just wanted to grow it from there. So in December, when I came on board, obviously we've gone through some, it's challenging. It is a nonprofit. So getting that going and getting kind of the direction and getting people on board, it can be tough. So we've kind of, taken some steps backwards to kind of like reevaluate everything that's going on here and how we can actually provide for these coaches. So again, when I started, I was the director of memberships, and it seemed kind of silly that we were charging a fee for these coaches to actually become members, because our whole goal is to get them paid more money. So if we're asking them to pay some of their money for us, it kind of, it kind of like goes against what we're for. So we eliminated all of that. And once we did that, we actually saw a jump to, the last time I've asked the numbers, it was around like 8,600 members that subscribe to our newsletter and get all of our information. So through the last couple of months, we've been able to bring on a few sponsors that we're able to now like bring on those more resources to start pushing the coaches. So we're definitely still kind of in the building phase, but with what's coming up, that's our biggest focus for right now.
You mentioned earlier the state of salaries for coaches here in Florida. I'm going to guess many of our listeners in other states, they're not making millions of dollars coaching, obviously, but do you have some? And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you have some general data about the current state of coaching salaries for high school coaches in Florida that you can share to kind of help amplify why the Florida Coaches Coalition exists?
Yeah. So I'm pretty positive that majority of coaches, the average is around $1,500 for a semester. And so actually, look, I do have some information. So Andrew, he's the one that he started in Brevard County. He kind of got them to raise, I guess, a little bit of the stipends. So in Brevard County, a head football coach with less than 6 years experience received about $3,700 stipend for the whole year. And he was able to raise it. I mean, obviously it's not significant, but to 4,600. So I don't know. Yeah, they're making like $1.80 an hour, which overall, when I found that out, it was just shocking. Because as a coach, you're a lot more than a coach. You're a therapist. You're helping these kids get home sometimes, using your own gas money. Some of these coaches pay for kids to eat even. And you're not getting, a company card for any of that. You're taking it all out of your own personal wallet, and you're taking time from your own families at home. So to really put the emphasis on getting these coaches more of what they need, like as opposed to like what they're doing in Texas and how they've elevated for those coaches so much in other big states. Georgia, all these coaches are leaving Florida to go to these bigger states. So it's unfortunate, but it's what we're trying to fix.
Yeah, and again, you brought up a couple of good points there. Dr. Andrew Ramjet, who is the county athletic director, I don't want to misspeak, Brevard County, okay, has really done a great job in his county of turning this around and significantly raising, coaching stipends for head coaches, assistant coaches, et cetera. There's many stories around the state of Florida, probably in most districts, most counties, where coaching stipends, we won't call them a salary, coaching stipends have remained stagnant for 10 years, 15 years. I heard of one school where they had a state champion, 4-time state champion soccer coach, had been there 24, 25 years. The stipend had not changed a penny since he first became that coach there. And as you mentioned, there's so many other things that coaches do, outside of the lines. They're mentors, their mother and father figures, their counselors, their chauffeurs taking kids home that don't have rides, providing them with meals sometimes because that's the reality of their life. If we'll do this again at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to find out more about the Florida Coaches Coalition, what's the website? And if they want to reach out to you as the COO, how do they connect with you?
Yeah. So I did not realize until I took this job how big Twitter is out there, especially for coaches. I was not one on Twitter ever. And that was one of the requirements that Andrew made me do. I had to get a Twitter, and I think that's how I found you too, and all of this. Yeah. So I am occasionally on Twitter. I'm supposed to be on there more, but don't tell my boss. But to find more information about us, we are on, it's floridacoaches.com. And then we are also on LinkedIn. We are getting our Instagram going as well. But again, it's part of the building everything. So.
Yeah, that Twitter address it's actually PayFL coaches, PayFL coaches. Got a pretty good following. I think you're close to 10,000 followers. And again, Kelly and the Florida Coaches Coalition are both on LinkedIn. So add them to your network, connect. You've got a big conference coming up. We're going to take a break and then we'll talk more about that. For our listeners, we're visiting today with Kelly Marcinek. She's the Chief Operating Officer for the Florida Coaches Coalition. Let's take that break. We'll be back with some more on the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. They're going to show you how to set up and sell tickets online, not just for athletic events, but for things like concerts, school plays, school dances, even graduation. And the best part, every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support to you. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com and get started. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. They're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. The Wall of Fame is actually an interactive touchscreen video console that's going to highlight your school's top performers, both past and present, in athletics, academics, even the arts. But it's so much more than that. The Wall of Fame is an extensive content program that allows you to tell more compelling stories to better engage your audience. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all your sports or your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame, check out their great products. And when you're ready to buy, use the link vitalsignswalloffame.com/Jake, and you'll get a nice little discount. That's Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Bring your school's legacy to life. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We're visiting with Kelly Marcinek of the Florida Coaches Coalition. Kelly, you talked about the educational activities that Florida Coaches Coalition provides. I know you've got a big conference coming up. Share with our listeners what that is all about, when it is, and maybe how they can get involved.
So we haven't made the complete announcement yet, but yes, it will be our coaches conference, or our conference will be August 19th in Orlando, Florida. Everything's kind of getting finalized and it should actually be out next week. So you'll be able to go onto our website, and then as well as our newsletter. If you sign up for our newsletter, we'll be sending out all information next week as well. So you want to get your email in there, but it is actually free for all coaches. Again, that's what we're advocating for, is for you guys for coaches to make more money. So we wanted to do this as a free thing for coaches. The way we work is just off sponsorships. So even if any coaches out there, have their own brand or company and wanting to bring more awareness to it, we're open to sponsorships as well. So you can find us on the website for that as well.
Okay. I know it's a couple months off, but and I'm sure the agenda and the speakers are being finalized, but anything, any previews you can share, what type of sessions, what sports might be covered, just anything that's going to, help nudge that listener to sign up for it.
Yeah, definitely. So I know a lot of people have asked us, are you doing like sports specific? So for this first one, we decided that we wanted to encompass all sports as our first major event. So as I even pull up the schedule, we're doing anywhere from, talking about maximizing athlete performance to social media amongst, players and coaches and how they can help their players. Then connecting with Division I coaches, that we're doing a mental health and coaching subject. Then, of course, we're going to do the increasing coaching stipends in Florida, and like for athletic directors, how to fund your athletic program, how to become a high school head coach and or athletic director. So we're kind of touching on everything. And we're actually offering, I know this is a big thing for coaches in Florida that they have to be CPR certified. We also will have a company there is in attendance that is going to be doing it free for all coaches as well. That'll be included. So
Wow. I mean,
yeah.
great agenda without that, but that is huge because schools pay a lot of money for that
Mhm.
CPR certification. I know we would do that for all of our coaches, which was, we had probably close to 80 in our entire school. And not all of them would need it. But sometimes we do maybe 40 or 50 coaches along with all of our teachers. So that is fantastic. Okay. Great stuff. Kelly, that just sounds like a fantastic conference. Again, I'm excited. I put the date on my calendar, August 19th, all day event in Orlando. One more time, what's the website? How can our listeners find out more about the Florida Coaches Coalition August conference?
Yes. So it's floridacoaches.com. And again, it's not on our website yet. It should be going live within the next week or two. And they can watch out. But there will be teasers on Twitter and Instagram as well. So just be on the lookout. But it will be on our website.
Yeah, check the website out. And again, that Twitter is Payfl coaches. They'll certainly announce it. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. There's a little blurb right there. Free for all Florida coaches, free admission. Free is a very good price. Okay. Our guest today is Kelly Marcinek. She's the Chief Operating Officer for the Florida Coaches Coalition. We're going to take another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to a brand new sponsor, District One. I want y'all to go to district1.com for a better uniform experience. That's district followed by WON. And you're going to feel like you've won because District One offers you fully custom premium uniforms. They also have on time delivery in 20 business days or less. And here's one of the best things, you can order one at a time replacements. You're not going to have to replace an entire set of uniforms when you only need to replace one or two. Stop dealing with late deliveries and visit district1.com. Once again, that's WON on the back end. Click the Team Gear button for your free quote. That's district1.com. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Kelly, one of the questions that I've been asking our guests pretty much since we started the podcast has to do with this idea of coaching toughness. 100 years ago, when I was in high school, our coaches would say things like, come on, you got to be tough, or come on, you got to suck it up. And I think we kind of knew what they meant, and we did it. In the many years since I was in high school, we've learned much better ways to communicate with our student athletes. But I still think toughness is an important component of sports and of life. So here's my question for you. How can a AD or a coach help a Generation Z kid to develop toughness while also being aware of and sensitive to the very real social emotional challenges that they're going through today that I never had to go through way back in the 70s? Do you have any advice for us?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been 10 years since I got out of high school, but the way that things have changed and coaches can't necessarily be as tough as they were on their players anymore. But I think what's also become such a big thing is, when I was in high school, everybody always said, you wish that like a broken arm or a broken leg, that you could see what's going on like inside, like the mentality of a kid or what they're really dealing with at home. So I think where it really comes down for coaches or athletic directors is, making sure that those coaches are having those conversations with kids. And, if they see something's a little off, diving a little bit deeper and really finding those pain points. And that's how you find out something that took me a very long time to like figure out was how to actually effectively communicate with people and even my teammates alone. I don't necessarily know, and I didn't know until recently, some things that my teammates were going through at the time. And I wish I did, because it would have helped me better communicate with them. But as far as the toughness, I mean, there's things. I go to spin class now, and, the instructor's pushing you and they say, okay, once you're at your breaking point, let's see how mentally tough you actually are. So, and it's that pushing that extra mile and realizing, and then this day and age, I think apparently kids have to be rewarded a little bit more. So, when they are pushing and you see that they're pushing past their limits and they are really giving it them their or giving their all, it's being like, hey, good job. Like it is, sometimes it's just that reassurance that everybody needs. I know I need it, but I also remember that I got yelled at for a ball dropping on the ground, and I'll never forget it. And I got kicked out of practice. So it made me a little bit more mental tough. But this day and age, I think it's really all about that connection that you have with your athletes, just overall.
Yeah, it's good to hear from someone that's, I guess, a little bit closer to Generation Z, actually a lot more closer than I am. But you're absolutely right. Building those connections, sometimes people call, building the relationship. It's not only better for a student athlete, and I think the coach's mental health, but it's better for their performance. They perform better. Those types of things just didn't exist back in my day. We knew our coaches, cared about us, but we just didn't put it in that terminology. But building those connections, so very good. Appreciate you sharing that. Kelly, this has been really cool spending some time with you, getting to hear more about the Florida Coaches Coalition. But we're not done yet. We're going to take our final break. We're going to hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor this next segment, which is the Athletic Director's Toolbox. Now, you're not an athletic director, but you certainly know your way around the world of athletics. So after the break, we're going to come back. I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. So stay with us. We're going to take this final break, and then we're going to find out what Kelly Marcinek is going to put in her new athletic director toolbox. We do want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment of the podcast. Athletic Surveys are a quick, easy, and a very affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic directors typically only hear the complaints, that 2% that want to gripe about something, and we need to hear from them. But we also need to hear from the 98% that really love and support our program. And that's where Athletic Surveys comes in. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that allows you to take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We have been visiting with a really cool guest, Kelly Marcinek. She's a former Division I athlete, very successful. Now she's the Chief Operating Officer for the Florida Coaches Coalition. We hope you check that website out. But right now, I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let her put 3 things in the toolbox. So, Kelly, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Mine's a little bit more, I guess, advice for these athletic directors. So, like I kind of talked about it earlier, would be definitely like the emphasis on academics. Of course, your job there is sports. You're the athletic director, but the emphasis on academics that I didn't realize until a later point instead of the beginning, that's definitely something I recommend for all of your players. My second thing would be, I know since the beginning of time, football has been the main focus for a lot of, schools. So really like putting a focus on all sports, even those little ones, the ones where you have the bowling club, or not to say that those are the little ones, but, a real big emphasis on all of the sports. And then, of course, we talked about connections, but My advice is, having those round tables with leaders from each sport, sitting down and talking about what do they need? What do they need from them? Knowing that as the athletic director, they're not there to just organize everything, but they're there to like listen to what the players actually need rather than what they just come in and think that they need and worrying about all the adults around.
Boy, you probably noticed I'm scribbling those things down. Great ideas. I love the focus on all sports. We've had that mentioned before, but I think it's one of those things that sometimes gets shuffled to the side. We assume it's going to happen. It's got to be another buzzword today. You got to be intentional about that. You got to support all the sports. And I love the terminology you used about the round tables for your student athlete leadership. Great idea. Thanks for sharing those. One once again, for listeners, we've been visiting with Kelly Marcinek. Kelly, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more, what's the best way they can get a hold of you and add you to their network?
Definitely LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn. I take full advantage of connections. That's a big thing these days. I think a lot of people, you really don't get anywhere in life without connections. So I love to connect with anyone and everyone. And I'll connect from CEOs to a little mom and pop. So anyone.
No, and for athletic directors, you probably heard me and many others say that probably the single biggest thing you can do to help you help your students, help your coaches, is to expand your network, because there's somebody out there that has dealt with the same challenge that you're dealing with right now. And I think you got a great resource here. Kelly, thanks so much for sharing with our listeners today, and all the best with the Florida Coaches Coalition and the big conference coming up in August.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Oh, well, I had fun too. For listeners, we do this just about every day, and we upload the Zoom videos to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening. Come back next time for another great interview on the Educational AD Podcast.